Hello and welcome to The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan. Greetings from the World Economic Forum annual meeting of the new champions in Tianjin. Now, this year's meeting convened around 1,700 representatives from over 90 countries and regions. They're here to explore answers to some of the most pressing issues of our times. Given today's geopolitical uncertainties, rivalries, and the increasing tension in the Middle East, what is the latest forecast and outlook on the global economy? What is the future of multilateralism? And how do they assess the performance of the Chinese economy as of late? Here's my conversation with our guests. You cannot talk about the global economy without talking about the global south. And you cannot talk about the global south without mentioning the MENA region, aka the Middle East and North Africa. On the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, it is our pleasure to have Mr. Nuruddin Wada, Minister of Knowledge Economy, Startups and Micro-Enterprises of Algeria. Your Excellency Minister Wada, welcome to CGTN. Thank you for making it to Summer Davos in Tianjin.
Thank you for this invitation.
You were at the plenary session when Chinese Premier Li Qiang gave a major speech addressing the World Economic Forum. What key messages did you pick up about the direction of the Chinese economy and its position regarding its relations with other partnering countries such as Algeria?
The first message is that Chinese economy is one of the locomotive for the world economy progress, and it's very open for collaboration and win-win collaboration with everywhere in the world. This is very strong signal of openness, but also a strong signal to have a responsible economy, which can contribute to the wellness of people in China, but also all over the world. The other important message is that today there is a lot of challenges. World is facing huge challenges, and to face this, we have to gather our efforts from the east to the north, from the south to the north, and this is really important to make humanity able to face these important and crucial challenges.
There have been so much tension and so many conflicts going on in the world on top of the rivalry that we've seen over the years. Now we have as an escalation of, Algeria knows its fair share of adversity when it comes to war and proxy wars and conflicts. What do you make of the current situation?
Algeria has always been a peaceful country. In the same time, we stand with all populations which has the right to decide of their future. At the same time, we believe that the big countries like China can play much more bigger role in making our world more stable and better peace. The peace is a big challenge today in the world, but also in some regions, especially in the MENA region, we have lack of basic human conditions, and this is unbelievable in 2025. So I think China can work together with Algeria, with the African continent, in order to make people having wiser attitude and taking into account the fact that we are living in one world and we have to conserve it together.
In this speech, Premier Li said this morning, borrowing a Chinese proverb, 和气生财, which means creating an atmosphere of greater harmony between states and between people and individuals can bring greater wealth and prosperity. And we should all make the pie bigger instead of, only dwelling on how to divide the pie itself. How do you like that metaphor?
China is able to deal with any country, even if it is small, with respect. And to build wealth everywhere in the world, we need everyone. We need the big countries, we need the small economy, we need the diversity. So all this mix coming together and working together with a win-win and with respect, especially this world, will help the world to face these crucial challenges. In the same time, the South today, the big South can play a big role in order to bring a new voice, especially in the international institutions like UN or Security Council. So the revision of the Security Council composition involving more countries from the South will give more stability to this institution and make their decisions more credible.
You're the Minister of Knowledge Economy, among other things. Tell us a bit about the scope of your work. What is the necessity of creating such a ministry? What do you oversee and what kind of impact is it making on Algerian society?
Knowledge economy, it's a very important component today in the Algerian economy. It is growing. It's something new, but it is growing. And the objective is to complete the actual traditional economy based on oil and gas by creating an economy based on knowledge, based on youth. Algeria is a very young population, and also based on knowledge and new technology. Technology today is everywhere. With the fast development of artificial intelligence and disruptive technologies, we can have this technology deployed all over the world very quickly. And today, the challenge is to make this technology an opportunity to create wealth, to create a growth of technology. And this is a job that we are trying to perform in our department, is to give the chance for young population, skilled population, for brains to have an impact on the economy, constructing wealth based on immaterial assets.
Do you see opportunities to leverage the existing technologies and the application of technologies in China, given the rise of artificial intelligence in China, to create even greater synergy between China and Algeria when it comes to working together on, fostering a knowledge economy based the future?
Today, Algeria is deploying a big effort on digitalization. And let me tell you that the first technological partner is a Chinese company. So we believe that today in China, big players are deploying amazing and disruptive technology. And cooperation between Algeria and China can allow us to go faster, adopting this technology, but also taking it as a tools to develop and promote a new economy and a faster growth economy.
What aspect of the Chinese tech sector, our AI sector, that excites you the most, that you would like to explore more opportunities to collaborate, perhaps?
ICT in general, technology, but also we can think about technologies of renewable energy, of automotive, of robotics. All these technologies are today seen as a tools for developing the economy and having an economy more resilient. In the same time, we can also talk about the energy, which is a big issue in Algeria. Algeria is an energy country, and using the energy new way and also promoting the renewable energies, which is more sustainable for the economy, but also for our planet.
On the future of the world order, apparently the old world order since the 1990s, many historians and economists believe is coming to an end, like it or not, because of the unilateral actions of some major countries. What kind of a new world order do you hope to see? I mean, you talk about the rise of the global south, the role of China, increasing role of China, but what kind of new world order do you think, or you think it should look like?
I think the new order we will have, we want to have more voices of African countries heard in the biggest international institutions. In the other side, we can also think about largest institutions that involve countries from all the continents, and then deciding together for the big challenges of climate change, of artificial intelligence technology, which is taking big proportion all over the world. Behind that, there is a very big issues of equity of technology in different regions of the world. So the African countries today can contribute with wiser advice, and also can be an important player for the new world order.
In the age of artificial intelligence, what kind of knowledge is most needed, is most important, in your opinion?
Today, the fuel of artificial intelligence is data. So we have to make a focus on digitalization, especially in the African continent, in order to have more and more data, and then build models dedicated to the special culture of this region. Artificial intelligence is an amazing tool, but it has to be fed with the right data, depending on the region where we are living. And today, I think in Africa, we need to have proper models trained on African data to be more suitable and more efficient to solve the African problems.
What policy signals did Premier Li Qiang send in his address to the World Economic Forum in Tianjin? I asked that question to Dr. Jean Ma, Chief Representative for Asia Pacific and Head of China Research at the Institute of International Finance. Okay, so Dr. Ma, we've heard from the Chinese Premier making a very powerful speech addressing Davos, Summer Davos here in Tianjin. What do you think are the most important messages regarding the Chinese economy and China's position regarding its cooperation with the outside world?
It was indeed a very powerful speech that hit a lot of important points. I think overall he delivered a message on four fronts. First of all, we need to manage the risk of the global uncertainty, especially in trade. And the second, China's willing to safeguard the global multilateralism through all kinds of platforms and organizations. And thirdly, he made it very clear China needs to support to boost the growth. This is not only good for China, but also it's good for the global economy because China needs to remain an engine for global economic growth. And fourthly, it's very interesting. He spent quite some time talking about importance of entrepreneurship. He said entrepreneurship actually to transform the uncertainties in the market into the certainty of economic growth. This is something very new to me. In such an uncertain time, the entrepreneurship is particularly important. China needs to protect, safeguard, and treasure such entrepreneurship.
And he also said something I thought was a very soft rebuttal to the unilateral line of thinking that is being practiced by countries none other than the United States right now. And he also said that 和气生财, right? You create an atmosphere of harmony that can empower and then enrich potentially everybody. What do you think about that?
Yes, I'd like to make three observations. First of all, he said we see rising protectionism in the world. He said about 5 years ago, there are 200 items of policies of protectionism in the world. Right now, we're facing 1,200. So we see the protectionist policy increased by 6 times in the 5 years.
You can actually quantify it.
Right. So that has introduced great uncertainty to global growth. And the second thing, he raised a very interesting question. He didn't give it as an answer, but he raised a very interesting question. He said, well, in order to cope with this uncertain global situation and to cope with this protectionism, a lot of countries are striking bilateral deals and small regional deals, like the free trade agreement among a couple of countries, like China with ASEAN, China with Korea, among Latin American countries. He said, you can't believe it. He said, do you know how many such bilateral and small multilateral deals outside the WTO? We have 600 such arrangements right now. 600. So that makes the whole trade arrangement in the world incredibly complicated. Because every trade ministry, commerce ministry need to look or maintain hundreds of such trade deals, either bilateral or multilateral in a small region.
What do you make of China's, the prospect of China re-engineering its growth model, finding and creating new paths of growth going forward?
China already accounts for about 30% of manufacturing output in the world. And when China is moving up the value chain, it's great for China. But inevitably, they also create competition with the incumbents. Autos is one example. So China also needs to learn how to manage such conflict. So that's why, as Premier said, we just need more negotiation and a dialogue to resolve these issues.
And finally, on the fragmentation of the world, we see an increasing number of cases where conflicts are getting worse, not better. no ceasefire yet in Ukraine. There has been the escalation, in the Middle East, a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Iran that is, we don't know how long it will last. The United States intervened, in this. What do you think this geopolitical fragmentation will mean for the global economy going forward?
That's an interesting uncertainty. So people need to learn to manage such risk. Yes, we see rising conflict in many areas of the world. At the same time, we also see rapid growth, prosperity, more trade in other parts of the world. As Premier mentioned, back 25 years ago, the whole developing world, or you call it South, global South, they account for 70% of the population, but only 30% of global trade. The 25 years later, they account for almost half of global trade, up from 30%. And also the trade among the global South countries are rising much faster than the trade in developed economies.
Dr. Jima, thank you so much for your insights.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Setitan Satiratai is one of the 7 board members of the Monetary Policy Committee at Thailand's Central Bank and a future economy advisor at Thailand Development Research Institute. He shared his thoughts on China's economy and China-ASEAN relations. Senti, China-ASEAN relations have been more than robust, and given today's geopolitical and geoeconomic realities, where do you think China-ASEAN relations are going next?
Yeah, no, as you said, it has been a very robust relationship. I think over the years, it has kind of taken new steps. I think look back in the past 5 years, connectivity in trade, for sure, a lot of investment as well, where we have seen a lot of the kind of China plus one theme, where a lot of investments happening in Southeast Asia as part of a supply chain spreading out, setting up factories, exporting to the world. But also, we also seen movements of talents and movement of people. And of course, the very important part coming from Thailand, you see is tourism. It's such a big part of the growth drivers in Thailand, but also now becoming regionally as well, not just in Thailand, where we have a lot of Chinese tourists coming in. So I think, and it's also changing. It's becoming more sophisticated. We have different groups. We have more kind of the tourism products which China's tourism are enjoying. So I think a lot of these new dimensions are good. And now we're at an interesting time, because we are at an interesting time where the geopolitical environment is like this. I think it's more important than ever that there's greater collaboration, greater cooperation between the Southeast Asia and China coming together.
Senti, you're one of the 7 members of Thailand's Monetary Central Authority. Can I get a comment from you on China-Thailand relations as we're marking the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations?
Yeah, no, it's been great looking back, and I think once you look back and look forward, I think what's really important is that all this partnerships and relationship is really based on trust and partnerships, and you want to kind of take that into the new era, into the new world, into the new economy. And I think there are a few pillars that we can definitely build upon. One is around tourism already. I think where we can take it further, and not just the normal traditional kind of tourism, but for Thailand, take it to a more new products of tourism, whether it's health tourism, wellness tourism, cultural tourism. And I think the Chinese tourists are also becoming more sophisticated, and there's a demand for these products. So how can we spread the tourism so that it doesn't just benefit 5 provinces in Thailand, which typically account for about 80% of the tourists coming in? How can we spread out? Thailand has over 70 provinces with many, many things to see. I invite more Chinese tourists to actually explore these areas, non-traditional products, and spread the wealth, spread the developments to these areas. So I think tourism is one pillar. I think the second pillar is around investments. I think there have already been great investments, a lot of investment in China. In Thailand, I think China is probably number one, if not number 2. I think number 1 now in FDI coming to Thailand. The next part develop on this is how can we ensure that these investments also translate to know-how transfer. I think that's going to be very important for Thailand, where you also learn the technology, you also learn the know-how, you get hired and to do more difficult tasks and got talent developments. If you can get to that point, I think that's going to forge and make the relationship and partnership even stronger.
Senti, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
At the World Economic Forum in Tianjin, we also caught up with the founding Vice Minister of the Digital Economy of Mongolia. Balor, great to have you here on CGTN.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, China has been putting a lot of effort on developing, researching, and putting out applications of artificial intelligence, something you have been very much dedicated to doing over the years. You are, in fact, the first founding Vice Minister of Digital Economy of Mongolia. How do you look at China's development in terms of artificial intelligence from your vantage point of view?
I think China is pioneering AI development in many ways, and I think the Western media outlet is very biased on informing what is happening in China in terms of AI development. I was just hearing one of the panels, startups of China, and they were saying AI competition within China is ruthless, and we don't have any global competition. And there was like a strong statement coming from startup companies, but that express how advanced China is in terms of developing and delivering AI products. The concern I have is 1/3 of world's population do not have connection to internet. And maybe that's not a problem in China, but it's creating a lot of inequality around the world. So what I would encourage China to do is to deliver and work more on AI inclusion. And I know China is big and vast and it has a lot of population, but I think just on AI inclusion, China should be pioneering globally.
But given today's geopolitical realities, where there have been a lot of export controls from the United States, for example, the most advanced chips of NVIDIA is banned by the US from being sold to China. There is an emphasis in China to develop our own indigenous technologies in light of the US embargoes and sanctions. How do you see this China-US diplomatic and geopolitical rivalry playing into the tech sector? Are we going to have a sort of a fragmented world of AI going forward?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest concerns of global tech communities, especially AI community, because with joint forces, not politically, but let's say in the tech community, it would have created so much more impact and it would have grew so much faster. So with the tariff policy and all the geopolitical restrictions, it's slowing down AI development, but also it's dividing the world. So that's one of the concerns. But when it comes to international tech community, I think it's pretty much one that we want to see how AI can impact the world in a better way, how AI can improve efficiency and productivity. So beyond the geopolitical system, I think it's very important that tech companies, tech pioneers, founders come together and work together beyond that geopolitical restrictions.
I know you're doing AI Academy, you're founding it and helping it expand into the world. What are the things in terms of AI literacy that young people in China or everyone in China and around the world should know that they currently don't?
That's a good question. And now AI has become a big divider of the society, depending on where you live, whether you live in remote areas, whether you study in small public school, or whether you study in very good private school in Beijing or Shanghai, for example. So it's very much similar to different countries, including Mongolia, Central Asian countries, even in the Western countries like the UK, right? So in terms of AI education, we're starting pretty much from the same place. And for AI, I think the biggest education we need to deliver is how AI works. And it's not absolute truth. For example, ChatGPT AI hallucination is 37%, which is quite big. And you see a lot of people making important life decisions depending on how GPT answers to them. So for our kids, for our younger generation, it's very important to teach how the technology works, how algorithm is set. But also, again, I cannot emphasize enough on the fact that we need to ensure AI inclusion so we can create more accessible, more interoperable, more friendlier world.
You said you're worried about a lack of AI inclusion. What specifically, how are you worried about AI inclusion? What kind of people do you fear the most of being left behind?
You see 2 billion people do not have connection to internet, while smaller portion of the world population is already very advanced with AI. So it's creating more inequality gap we have ever seen, right? Let's say in the jungle in Brazil, for example, they just recently got internet access, and now they're discovering education or digital world in general. So it's creating a lot of inequality, and it's an education problem as well. And that's creating a lot of issues in terms of human rights, healthcare, overall access to education, for example. So it's a big concern, especially when it comes to developing world and global south.
And then finally, China has been very hard to transform its economic growth model from one of high quality, high speed, registering double-digit growth for 30, 40 years, to what it calls high quality development, and also by forging closer, high quality international collaboration, waiving visas to Europe and much of the world, making it easier for expats and foreigners to come visit and do business in China. Can I get a comment from you on China's efforts to pursue this the next phase of opening up?
So I was here last year for the same conference in Dalian, and this year as well. But I can already see a lot of progress in terms of many startups, tech startups, collaborating or working outside of China, partnering with different countries, even in MENA region, Central Asian region, very different regions across the world. Before, like the world used to see China as, production country, but now I think the world sees it as a pioneer in AI, robotics, and quantum computing. So I think very successfully China has shifted its status to pioneering in tech, but I would really encourage China to invest more into AI inclusion and AI education globally, and I think that would also position China as an enabler of education.
And that will do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan at the World Economic Forum Summer Davos in Tianjin. I'll see you again next time.